Jackie of Alchemical Cosplay with a tutorial on how I designed, digitized, and stitch out a custom machine embroidered lace edging using my Pfaff Creative Icon and Premiere Plus to create software. My goal is to create a scalloped edge lace that replicates a seafoam motif for an upcoming costume. So I sketched out a design. It's very scribbly, as you can see, and then I used the Premiere software to digitize the lace, and this is the finished product. And I'll show you how I did that. On opening the software, the first thing I do is choose the hoop I'd like to work with. I'm using a metal hoop because it's excellent on delicate fabrics and easy to rehoop for endless designs. Now I've loaded the background and I'm resizing it to make it the size I'd like the finished embroidery to be. You can resize later, but it's easier to get it as close as possible at this point. Because my design template is so scribbly, I'm using the Precise Create drawing tool to place points along the edge of the embroidery element I'd like to create. I'm using a fill only with no edge, and I'm sliding the end point to the opposite side of this element. I'll get more into that in a second, but you can just use your positioner to both change that and the angle of the fill. Now I'm using the freehand Create Hole tool to quickly make organic bubble shapes in this fill. This is how I'm achieving that lacy, foamy effect. The stitch density is important on embroidered lace because if it's too stiff on your very soft netting background, it will look a little unnatural. So I chose to use no underlay, and I played with density from 4 to 2. The 4 ended up being a little too sparse looking for me, so I ended up going with number 2 density for the final product, and no borderline on any of these elements, so everything was very airy. The first element in this design is a placement mark to the far left, so I know the design is stitching out where I want it to be, and it helps me to align the next component of the endless embroidery when I'm stitching it out after a rehoop. You can see the elements of the embroidery are going in a circle counterclockwise, and this is to avoid jump threads. These are jump threads on an earlier version of the design when I wasn't being so careful about my stitch out order. On most embroideries, these aren't a problem because they're hidden on the back of your work, but with this mesh lace design, they're very visible in the finished product. So you want to change your stitch out to avoid jump threads where possible, or trim them up if you can't. So when digitizing this design, I moved the start and end points to opposite sides of each element and tried to put the start point of the next element next to the end point of the one preceding it. And I arranged all elements in a counterclockwise motion so the jump threads would be as small and subtle as possible. Now a few tips for the stitch out. I used a Swiss dot netting for the ground of the lace. In order to give it some stability, I spray basted a water-soluble stabilizer to the front, and now I'm hooping it on a metal hoop, which keeps the fabric taut but is great for delicate fabrics. It also makes rehooping for endless designs very quick and easy. I easily loaded the design from the My Sew Net feature on the Creative Icon, which pulls your design from the cloud. So I just uploaded it from my computer and now I can load it. I select my hoop first, so the Creative Grand Metal hoop in this case. I created each scallop as a separate embroidery design to make it a little more versatile, but this can fit 2 on the hoop I've chosen. So I'm turning it on its side and copying it, and then I'm aligning it with the first iteration, and I'm going to combine them into one layer so I can move both of these scallop shapes as one now. So you can see I can just drag this around and position it where I want on my hoop. After hitting embroidery stitch out, I'm going to get some options, and the only thing I'm going to change here is to select monochrome for the color sorting. And this will stop the machine asking me to change thread colors between these two scallops that I've kind of fused together. Now you just start the stitch out and watch the magic happen. After one stitch out, your embroidery will look like this. And then all you have to do is remove the magnets, slide your fabric down along the metal hoop, reinsert it into your machine, and use the precise positioning feature to align the next element of this endless embroidery design. I designed the center bottom of the scallop on the right to be my starting point for the endless embroidery. So my first precise positioning point goes there, and I'll move the needle until it will fall right on top of the positioning mark that I have on the left side of the embroidery that I've already done. Now I'm moving the second point to be where that positioning mark is on the left side and shifting the hoop so that it'll fall along the line I've drawn that I want the embroidery to go on. Then you start and it will stitch out exactly where you need it to be. Because of the active stitch thread tensioning on the Creative Icon, you just need a little bit of water-soluble stabilizer to stitch out gorgeous lace-like effects on very delicate fabric like this netting. And once all the embroidery is done, all you need to do is trim away a little bit of the excess water-soluble stabilizer, clean up any stray jump threads that might be left in your design, and then wash away the stabilizer. Here's how it looks with the stabilizer washed away. And once you trim the netting away from the edge, you've got a beautiful scalloped lace edging.